Everyone fed, watered? G'day. Well, it's not as bad in here as I thought it might end up being, is it?
It's okay,
It's
isn't
not
it?
too bad.
Yeah.
It must be pretty warm outside, is it?
What did you say, Eugene? It's still 87 degrees, yeah.
87, yeah. Not quite 90 yet.
Yeah.
Hasn't hit 90. Hopefully it doesn't hit 90 in a about a couple of months. Yeah. Modern society. We have to talk to you about modern society. How arrogant it really is an interesting thing to look at. All right. Well, what we want to do now is basically go through some things we didn't get to go through in Canada about states you can be in that prevent this from happening. So this process is the thing that needs to happen when it comes to praying for God's love. You need to start from a sincere ignorance position on your sin. Then you need to have a sincere desire to find your sin. And once you have a sincere desire to find it, then you'll seek education, which will educate you about your sin. And then you'll have a sincere desire to apply that education. And then you have a sincere desire to act. Now, the sincere desire to act is prayer. So prayer is happening right down here. Does that make sense? Now, of course, you can pray all the way through, but not for God's love and receive it. To receive God's love, you need to get to the stage where you have a sincere desire to receive it, which is down here, acting in a manner that expresses your sincere desire. So you can see that there is a lot involved before you really reach a sincere desire. You could say that these steps here, to a large degree, you're going to have to do. Once you act, once you have a sincere desire to act and you act, pray, now there can be a loving outcome. The loving outcome being you receive what you're sincerely desiring to receive. Does that make sense? So this is a loving outcome. Obviously, if there's no outcome and you thought the action was sincere, then obviously there must be a mistake being made and you need to go back to the beginning and learn some more. So you iron out your mistakes. You could say that's a feedback system, isn't it? Where you go back to the beginning and go, okay, I need more education. I need to know more. I need to develop a stronger desire to know more. If you follow this process, and by the way, if you follow this process with almost anything you do, you'll find there will be a positive outcome in the end. And that includes anything you could choose to do, anything you'd act upon doing, anything you want for your life. Many of you are doing that already with things that you want for your life, for example, because you have a sincere desire to have those things. And so you're already doing these things, but you're just not doing it yet with prayer, not doing it yet with understanding the sin, so that you can get to the state of prayer. Is there any questions about that? Because I've gone through that very quickly. We have covered that in Canada, like the process, and we went through many examples of how that works, right? So if we come down here first, and on this side, if we, across to Si there, if we can. Yeah. So Si, keep your hand up until you get the mic.
You started those recordings, didn't you, Jay?
Sorry?
You did them, didn't you?
Yeah.
So, with this diagram, where does faith come into that, or does it not?
Faith is a sincere desire. So you can see that before I can start without any desire at all, but I know that I don't have one. And then I have to exercise a desire. The first thing I have to exercise a desire in is my education. In other words, I need to have a sincere desire that I learn something. Faith is required in that process, isn't it? Because you wouldn't bother learning something unless you thought there was a benefit to what you're learning. Right? So every time you see the word sincere desire, that's faith about the next step. So sincere desire to learn is faith about learning. Sincere desire to apply is faith about applying. Faith about acting. Sincere desire to act is faith that the action will bring you a result. Do you understand?
Yeah, but where does faith come from? I mean, I know in the Paget messages, they're always telling Paget, pray and have faith. Those two things.
Yep.
So I've been
Faith comes from developing a sincere desire. So between here and here, you've got to develop something. And you've got to develop a sincere desire. Once a sincere desire is present, then faith is present. Once faith is present, then actions will result. You start with having no faith frequently, but at least with ignorance, you're starting with having no developed faith in the sin either. Mm-hmm. So this is why we need to talk about other things over here, right?
So could we say it this way, Jay? If we say here, I'll have this way. We could say the sincere desire to learn is faith that I can learn more about this topic.
And that the learning is available.
It's available, it's beneficial.
Yep.
That is the faith. Here we can say the sincere desire to apply. I have faith that application is possible and will lead to good results. Sincere desire to act. I have faith that my action will bring a loving outcome. So when we're saying to Paget all the time, pray and have faith that this can work, have faith that you can receive God's love. But it's really encouraging him to develop a sincere desire.
So is it true to then say that if you have no sincere desire, you can't have faith, and vice versa?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, it's synonymous with it. It's just another way of saying it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Remember, faith is for the future, it's the things that are unseen, the things you are yet to experience. So what a sincere desire is exactly the same as that. It's a desire for the things you yet to have, you're yet to experience. It's exactly the same thing. Mm-hmm. So whenever we talk about faith, we're saying, like, faith is going to be required for you to do something. So even just getting the faith that you can learn, that it's possible to learn, that the truth is out there somewhere, available. These are all things that you need to first have a desire to know before you will know. Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, one thing that helps desire greatly is education as well. But you see, if we start from a place of sincere ignorance, we're open to education.
Yes.
But if we start from a place of insincere ignorance, or you could say insincere knowledge, then we're not open.
You could say that Jesus and I, what we're doing, everything we do is in an attempt to inspire in you a sincere desire or a faith that what we're talking about is possible. But what we contend with, if you want to put it like that, in an audience, is that nobody is sincerely ignorant. 99% of people believe that they already know something about the topic, that they already are doing the thing we're saying, or that they already know that what we're saying doesn't work. And so there's no sincere ignorance. If everyone in every audience was sincerely ignorant, we'd do 1 4-month trip and everyone would receive God's love. And so the next year we'd come back, 50% of the audience would have already received God's love, and if that other 50% was sincerely ignorant, by the time we got home, walked out the airport in Brisbane, those people would have received God's love because there's no impediment in this process. But it's the desired ignorance, the willful ignorance, the love of sin that impedes this whole flow diagram.
That's why God requires you deal with your sin, because God knows it's the love of your sin that denies you being in the state of wanting to even learn about the truth. You understand? So God knows he can't do anything about that for you because that's yours. And he gave you free will. So you've got the free will to remain willfully ignorant, right? So when we say willfully ignorant, that's not really... there's a lot involved in willful ignorance, right? Sincere ignorance is that you know you don't know, but you're open to learning. Willful ignorance is a lot of other things, which we'll talk about in a second. But Obviously, willful means that you're using your will to remain ignorant, right? Now, that is not a sincere place. That is a very, very destructive place, actually. And it's the willful ignorance which Mary and I are going around the world trying to teach you to get out of.
Trying to say, here it is.
Because we know that if you go through this process yourself, and you can see this is your sincere desire, not mine. This is your education, not mine. This is your sincere desire to apply it, not mine. I can't do these things for you. Your sincere desire to act, that's not mine either. That's your faith to act, right? You can see with all of these things, they are states within you. Nobody, no teacher can help you get out of those states. You need to do it for yourself. Does that make sense to you? Not a single teacher on earth can make you sincere. That's something you need to do for you, for your own sake, for your own happiness' sake.
Yeah, and as Jesus said, I said, you'd all do it. You just go through that really quickly. You'd still have to develop the will to do all these things. But the reason I emphasised it is that this place of sincere ignorance is so powerful, and so most people are so disconnected from that place. They don't realise the power of how much more rapid your progression becomes once you reach it.
Yeah.
So it seems like it happens miraculously almost when you reach that sincere ignorance. You still are developing a will in different directions, but when you're sincerely ignorant, you actually, ironically, you're the most powerful. You've been in the whole process. When you're in these other states we talked about this morning, you think you're so powerful and you're so worthy and you know so much, but actually it's slowing down your progress and your happiness.
And there's also one reason only why I reached the celestial heavens first. And that's because I was the most sincerely ignorant.
Yeah.
You understand? Oh, in that space, you can be humble. In that space, you're going to allow truths to be shared with you, and you don't want to talk back at it all the time. Justifying your own position all the time, or justifying that we get a lot of people coming to us who've listened to divine truth for years, and they come to tell me what they think they've learned. That's not a place of sincere ignorance. So straight away, the feeling in them is, I already know this now. And we know, no, you don't. And the more you do that, the more we know you don't know.
Yeah. When you've had the experience, you don't really need to tell someone else how much you know.
That's right. You want to share, but not out of, I'm going to prove to Mary that I've learnt that. Mm-hmm. You don't try to prove to anybody that you've learnt it. You just live it. You understand? There's a big difference between actually knowing and actually trying to prove you know. So this is why we need to have the discussion about what's on the other side of this sheet, you could say.
Because that's the really important, powerful work. What Jesus is going to talk about next is the thing that we, I am still working through things on this side to reach sincere ignorance on certain matters, and Jesus has done it himself as well. We've come and we know how valuable that work in identifying your sin is. A lot of people want us just to make them feel good all the time about things, and get a bit frustrated with us talking about sin all the time, but actually it's the sin, unravelling the sin, that is really the powerful part of your process.
So let's answer a few more. That go there and then straight behind, and on this side, I think. Oh, we were down here. So let's go outside.
Si first.
When you want to get to sincere ignorance, obviously you have to undo a lot of things that you learned were thought to be truths.
That's right. It's the undoing of things that is the hardest job.
And once you've undone it, and you've, let's say, at one subject you arrived at that, and you're like, okay, I'm about this, I'm sincerely ignorant. And somebody comes along to your house, some friend or someone, and they start talking about one of the things that you have undone already. And then I've noticed in that place, I am in a place where you tell me anything that is not divine truth, I'm going to reject it straight away.
Yes, it's the interesting thing is that the more you reach sincere ignorance, is that you realise when you realise that people haven't done all the undoing that you've done.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So you recognise it very rapidly. You go, oh, there they go. They haven't undone that. Or there they go. They haven't undone that. So you can recognise also very rapidly that listening to them is not going to be beneficial to you.
Yeah, but could that have a reaction that is unloving towards them? It feels like
Well, only if you judge them. Only if you view yourself as better than them. Does that make sense? Which is a human tendency, but again, that's another thing that you're willfully ignorant about.
Yeah.
So that, you know, when you have a feeling that you've gone through something yourself, you feel very definite, but also when you have humility, you realise, oh, they've just got to go through that too, and that's going to be a process they're going to have to go through. Your feeling is that you want to help them see that process, but you don't want to fight with them about it or argue with them about it, right? When audiences feel like arguing with me, my feelings are, well, I might as well go home. Because the whole audience wants to argue, and I don't want to argue. That makes sense? Yeah. If one or two people in the audience want to argue, I send them home. Because this is my space, and the others don't want to argue. So I'm going to be responsible and send them home. That makes sense? So
it's kind of very hard to see someone self-sabotage like that.
Well, not really, because when you realise, you've had to develop to the point where you want to get rid of your willful ignorance, then you start seeing that other people are going to have to use their will to do the same.
Yeah.
And so I don't feel responsible for you not doing it. Does that make sense? And I don't feel like I've got to spend days or years of my time helping Si get rid of his willful ignorance. What I do instead is I feel like, well, I'd like to help Si get rid of his willful ignorance, but if Si doesn't want to do it, because I know it's a process you're going to have to do for you, all I can do really is highlight the truth of it. And hopefully you hear enough to listen. But there will be many people who won't listen to you at all, because in their willful ignorance, there's a lot of parts to that willful ignorance that you can easily recognise. And in their willful ignorance, they're going to exercise resistance. And so it's impossible to truthfully educate, provide truthful education to a person who's willful. So I don't have the feeling, Mary's out of line, I'm going to try to force her into having God's view or get some truthful education. Even if I've talked to Mary and she says, and the feeling coming from Mary even is just, no, I don't want to know, then I can't go any further, right? If I'm living with Mary, obviously if it's affecting my life, I can potentially go further than somebody who's not living with me. But all I can do by going further is saying, Mary, you need to not live with me.
Because you also understand that without sincere desire to learn, truthful education can't occur. So if the person doesn't have a sincere desire, you cannot force the education upon them.
Yeah.
So it's really sincere ignorance. If you have it on one subject, you sort of need to have it on all related subjects at the same time. So if you have sincere ignorance on, let's say, whether God exists or not, you should also have ignorance on the fact that other people's free will is their free will, and maybe you're wrong in believing that you can influence them.
That's right. You're wrong believing you can influence them. You're not wrong believing you can influence them. You can influence them, but if you need to do it in a kind manner. You can't force them. You can sort of... I'm influencing you right now by talking to you, right? You're here, you're getting influenced one way or the other. The key that the individual needs to determine is whether the influence is positive or not, isn't it? That's up to you to decide. For me, it's up to me to decide, is my influence over you positive or negative? Like, I need to decide that. That's my responsibility. And your responsibility is Jesus' influence over you positive or negative? You need to decide that for yourself too. Does that make sense? Yep. But for me then try to force you. So many people have expected me to be like almost like a cult leader who would force you into a position. Do you know what I mean? Like they say, you know, things like a cult leader might do things like, this is what you're doing, and if you don't do that, then we're never going to see you again. That's not what I do. Even if people are very bad, even towards myself, I might not see them for a period of time, but I always feel for them, and I still feel like, oh, I'd love to see them again. It's just their own feelings that stop me, really. Do you know what I mean? So you don't even feel like you'd never want to see anybody again or something like that. You just feel love for them, but you also feel seeing them's not going to work.
Yeah.
You know?
Cultish behaviour also expects you to act without feeling
Without
sincere about the action.
Without education, without knowledge, without facts, without, any cult is going to go, forget about sincere ignorance, forget about your desire, forget about getting any truthful education, forget about your sincere desire to apply it. You must act the way I tell you to.
And they might use threats and bribery and blackmail and all kinds
sorts
of unloving techniques to get you to act.
Let's all drink Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Like the reference to your Johnstown. Let's all drink Kool-Aid. That's not what I'm interested in doing. What I'm interested in doing is giving you the skill and the education to recognise the Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
And say, I don't want to,
decide,
and I don't want to drink it.
It's not that good for me.
It's not good for me. You understand? That's what I'm trying to do.
Thank you.
So, and not only recognise the Kool-Aid, but recognise the people who want you to drink it. Because that's also a part of this process, isn't it? Recognising the people who are influencing you negatively in your life, wanting you to retain concepts and ideas that are against your happiness. Yeah? So, this is what is real education is. A true teacher, that's all they want to do. Yep. Mm-hmm. So that applies to you when you become educated and you get sincere ignorant point, and then you go through this process, and many of you will go through this process and you'll get here and you go, wow, the truth is so amazing that you'll want to share it. But you're going to have to be real careful, aren't you, now, because you now want to share it, but now all of your unhealed things that are over here start to play a part in how you do that, and you're going to have to recognise that as well. You're going to have to fix all that, because you still want to share it, but you've got to fix all the sin you're doing while you're trying to share.
Get to sincere ignorance about those things.
That's right. Yeah.
The good thing is the more you develop sincere ignorance, the more things you do it for, you grow this overall state of sincerity, which causes you to pause at every juncture and say, am I really sincerely ignorant here? Am I honouring? Am I loving? Am I, the more times you do this on individual issues. Mm. Yeah.
You get to a point where you recognise in yourself where you're not sincerely ignorant on any subject.
Yeah.
So you recognise very rapidly, I've got issues there that I haven't dealt with yet. And it's really, really good, because you get to the stage where you really want to get to the point of sincere ignorance first, because you know that that's my starting point. That's where I can really learn. That's where God can educate me. That's where spirit friends can educate me. That's where people on earth who know more than I do can educate me. And it's all about me getting some education, desiring that education. Only by me desiring it will I want it, will I do it. It's like somebody telling you, say, you've got to go to university and you don't want to. When you go and you're forced to by your mum or dad or whatever, are you going to be that passionate about it? Are you really going to want to be there? You're probably going to self-sabotage and make sure it doesn't happen. There's all sorts of things a person does when they are not sincerely desirous of something. I'm not interested in helping you do something that you're not personally, sincerely desiring to do. Does that make sense? So when I talk about a sin, if you don't want to get rid of your toilet paper, that's okay. Like, I don't feel it's okay in the sense that it's still a sin. I feel, no, that's your will. My responsibility to share truth with you is now ended. You've heard it. There's nothing more I need to say. I've shared with you the reasoning. I've shared with you the facts. That's it. It's up to you now what you do with that, and only you can do something with that in your life. Only you. I can't do it for you. I'm not there wiping your bottom. Literally, I'm not there wiping your bottom, right? Figuratively, when it comes to your sin, I'm not wiping your sin. I can't. Nobody can. Only you can deal with your sin. You are personally responsible for it. God will not deal with your sin unless you engage a process of repentance for it. And to do that, you have to know what it is. You have to know what the sin is in order to repent from it, right? So very important to understand the process. Yep. So, yep, if we had over here, we were, yes.
Hi.
Hi.
Would you be able to give an example of when you were in the spirit world and you experienced sincere ignorance?
In every sphere I've ever been in, I've experienced sincere ignorance. So an example of that, when I became at one with God and I arrived in the 8th sphere, I had no idea that the 9th sphere existed. I had no idea what I needed to learn to reach the 9th sphere. I had no idea of what education I needed in order to reach that location. I had to seek it. Now, of course, for me, there was nobody else telling me what it was either. So where do I seek it? I can only seek it through my own experience of that sphere, in other words, living my life in that sphere, and asking God. Getting into a sincere state where I can ask God, well, what's next? And each sphere, it's really interesting in the spirit world and here on earth, each place you're in, it sort of educates you in preparation for your next place. So what I had to do was learn as much as I could about the place I was in order to reach the next place. Does that make sense? Because I had a sincere ignorance, every sphere I've ever been in, I've known. I don't know what's beyond this. I got no idea. Sometimes I would dream and God would show me in my dreams what potentials there might be. I would dream about the potentials. And then I'd go, maybe that's where God wants me to go. So I'd experiment. I would go through a process, educating myself more and more, experimenting, and then I eventually act. And then when I made a mistake, where I didn't know and it didn't work, because you can make mistakes and be perfect, right? But there's no pain in the mistake, there's just no result. So once you're in the 8th sphere and you make a mistake in the sense that you don't know, being in a state of don't know is a constant thing pretty much in your life. And then instead of there being, the only reason why there's error or pain here in this feedback system is because of our sin. Right? When you are sinless, you don't have that. You just go, okay, there's no result. There's not a loving outcome. There's just no outcome. And you go, okay, I need more desire to learn. Now, in my case, I have a very, very strong attachment to the fact that I don't know anything. Right? And because of that, I've learnt the most. It's ironic, right? In a way, it's sort of by not being attached to what I thought I knew, that enabled me to learn the most, right? But as you get into the 8th sphere, there's a whole heap of things you now know, right? And you're certain about them, you've experienced them, so you know them for certain. But then you realise, the way God is, by this stage you know, the way God is, God's infinite, I'm finite, therefore God knows, like there must be huge amounts of things that God knows and I know nothing about. And all I need to do, by this stage I'm not in a state where I'm holding on to my own ideas. All I need to do is ask God and talk to God and go through the process of determining the truth. Now, in the Paget messages,
Here, Jay, I'll
Mary's
come across.
written it down somewhere. I'll just refer you to it. I think it's in book 2.
Yeah, it's here. Oops, got all our cards.
So just if you just mark this book 2,
Page 337.
page 337. So it's volume 2, page 337. It's a message from the Apostle John, who outlines to Paget the process that I followed in discovering truth. Now, this process, many of you will read the message and you think, that sort of makes sense to me, but it will make sense to you intellectually, not emotionally, initially. It will. It required that I did it emotionally with my beliefs and my feelings. So there's a whole thing I need to talk to you about all that in terms of how to do all of that. So the way I discovered the truth, and even the truth about receiving God's love, I discovered the same way. was I went through the process that he describes in that message. And it's about coming up with a hypothesis that you test through action. And then your hypothesis should be based upon love, firstly. And then you test it through action, you measure the result, and when the result isn't what you expected, you must adjust your hypothesis. It's a very scientific process, exactly the same as the scientific process that's used on earth now for other things, but not love, right? And I had to follow that process in order to discover the truth about God's love, and therefore the truth about God, the truth about God's universe, all the laws. I did the same way. And the way that happened was through this place of understanding that I was at a place where I did not know right at the beginning on every issue until I knew. Now, you get sort of times in this place of sincere ignorance. In this place, God can just share with you a lot of information because you're ignorant and you don't have any blockages to receiving it. And so God can say, you can go, like in the 8th sphere of the spirit world, I knew that there was a soul union ahead of us. That was 36 spheres removed from the 1st sphere. So we're talking, it's 28 spheres removed from the 8th sphere, isn't it? Ahead of me. And I knew in the 8th sphere, once I reached that, I knew that was part of God's plan. How to achieve it, I had no idea, right? I didn't even know what it meant. I just knew that God had sort of shown me through these sort of... I spend a lot of my time pondering in my life. You know, that's, as Mary knows, I do spend a lot of my time just wondering.
And when you said dreaming before as well, I wanted to clarify, you didn't mean going to sleep and dreaming.
No.
You're imagining.
I imagine
pondering.
and dream the future, dream what it might be like, that kind of thing. I wonder, is another way of putting it, I suppose. I wonder about what the future holds. And then in the process of wondering, when you're sincerely ignorant, there are certain confirmations you receive from God emotionally that say, yes, your wondering there is true. Now you've got that confirmation, you can go, what can I do to get there? Sort of like, what needs to be engaged on my part to get there? Obviously, I need a desire to learn things. I need a desire to educate myself, receive education from God in this case, and I need to apply and act upon what I learn. I need to develop sincere desire to do all of that. And in the process of doing that, you end up growing in knowledge, but also growing in experience. You have to have a sincere desire to act, which is the experience. When the experience is positive, you realise, that's an extra truth now that I can now use as a foundation for my next idea, the next thing I need to discover, right? So this is how I discovered the 9th sphere. I did that on Earth, and the 10th on Earth. I knew those 2 spheres existed because I could feel my transition into them while I was on Earth. After that, I passed into the spirit world, and all the other spheres to the union condition, I did it using the same way, the same methods that I'm teaching you right now to discover truth, right? I did it myself. This is why, for me, these things are so natural to explain to you, because I'm doing it all the time. I've done it for 2,000 years. This is how I've discovered truth for that period of time. And my desire to do it is strong, as you could probably tell, right? My desire to do it is passionate, more passionate than anybody else's actually that I've ever met, aside from perhaps Mary, because we had to have the same passionate desire to enter the union state, right? That's how we got to return here. Without that, we wouldn't have even been able to return. The soul, as a half, doesn't have enough power to engage the return process without being in a union state. So that's the only way we could return. So you can see this is such an essential part. So this part is the sin part, but once the sin is gone, that part gets rubbed out. You just made a sincere mistake. There's no penalties for sincere mistakes. Once the sin is gone, there's no penalties for it. And so That's the end of your process. You go through, I realise I made a sincere mistake, I need more desire. And away you go until you learn. Once there's a loving outcome, you start on sincere ignorance again on another issue, the next issue. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah?
It does, thank you.
And this drives you. It drives your future, drives how fast it happens, drives how happy you become. It drives everything. But the important thing is it's got to come from inside you. Even after you've dealt with all your sin, the desire to learn the next thing comes from you. Because God will never overpower your will, forcing you to learn something you didn't desire. So there's people I know from the first century who are still in the 13th sphere or the 14th sphere rather than the 30th sphere. And there's other people I know who are in the 30th sphere who were alive on earth at the exact same time. And the only difference between those two people is their desire to know, their desire to learn. In this audience here, not only are there spirits who are in dark condition or people who are in a condition where they've just become at one with God or any of those things, but there's also spirits here learning about this process. Like, I've never had the chance to talk to them about it. You understand? There's millions of people. You're not going to get a chance to talk to everybody, but now that we're here, a lot of those people can just come and learn what otherwise I haven't had the time to share. So there's even spirits here, who are celestial spirits, who are learning this. Learning that, this is where I need more desire if I want to be in a happier condition. Yeah? Sincerity, there is a place where you're sincere, and then there's a place where you're passionately sincere.
Wow.
Does that make... There's a difference, isn't there, between that? Where sincere, that's a measure of the law measures your sincerity, but the law also rewards your passion, right? So when it comes to longing, there's two parts of why I've progressed. One is because I'm sincere. The next one is because I long the most. I long for things the most related to God. Now that might not always be the case, it's just at the moment. I've longed the most, and that's why you progress the furthest. Does that make sense? God rewards your longing as well as your sincerity. Remember, I said at the beginning of today, pray for God's love. Pray is a sincere longing, and we have to have a talk about the longing. But today we're having a talk about the sincere. Make sense? The longing is the extent of the passion you exercise towards a thing. So for me, relationship with God is the passion. The reason why it's such a passion for me is because I've learnt the benefits of it. Over and over and over and over again, it's been reinforced to me. The benefits of having a longing and a passion for God, has brought me huge benefits in my life, and also, ironically, benefits to a lot of other people. My passion has brought benefits to other people. It's like the first people, like I keep saying to you, the first people who decided about air flight, their passion, the extent of their passion, which was pretty intense, right? They spent their whole lives, all their money, all their resources, all their time and energy. They ate, drank, and dreamed up flying. Yeah. That's all they did. And their passion resulted in outcomes which now the rest of us, many of you today coming here, benefited from that, right? From their passion. And it's the same with receiving God's love, that many people will benefit from your passion to receive it, if that makes sense. All right, now on this side,
Yep, Jordan.
Jordan, and then on this side, straight.
Yes.
I can't see. What's your name again? Yep. Good. Jordan.
In relation to the sin coming up and receiving the love in that diagram, obviously that's after the mistake and the reflection.
No. When when you take a sincere action, there's certain things that God deals with, and there's certain things that you have to deal with. You follow? So this is something we need more education about, and Mary and I want to teach more about. But with regard to the process here, you're responsible to that point. That point, you could say, is your sincere prayer. In the case of when you sin, it's a sincere prayer for repentance. You're repenting. It's a sincere prayer to God for forgiveness. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Once you have a sincere prayer for God for forgiveness, you will be forgiven. There's no ifs, no buts, no maybes, no variation on that. If you are sincerely desirous of being forgiven, you will be. So God, in the forgiving process, reaches into your sin, which the cause of your sin, not the sin itself, which is the effect, but the cause, the reason why you chose to sin. He reaches in to the sin in your soul and grabs it and rubs it out. The cause is gone. If the cause is gone, what happens?
Don't act on it.
You're not going to act upon it anymore. Does that make sense? So all my responsibility is to get to the point where I'm sincerely truthful and honest and sincerely desirous to remove that sin. Now, the consequence of the sin, in other words, the actions taken all have consequences. So the actions you took in the past all have consequences. God can't necessarily rub them out. And the reason why God can't is because they have a life of their own. And what I mean by that is this. Let's say I sinned by teaching you, so this is Jordan, I teach Jordan something that is false. So in other words, I'm imparting to you information that I might know it's false or I might not know. Either way, I'm imparting it to you, right? If I'm imparting information to you that is false, in other words, I'm setting myself up as a teacher and being convinced that something's true when it's not, and then I impart it to you, even though it's false, can you see you're possibly, if you believe it, you are possibly going to act upon it. You are then going to maybe teach others. So there's other people now that you're teaching based on this false. There's other actions you're taking. So there's actions that you're taking, there's feelings you are having, thoughts that you have, which are all based on the false. Now let's say I repent for my behaviour. In other words, I go through this entire process of getting to sincere ignorance, having a sincere desire to learn, I get some truthful education, then I start to see, I've been teaching what is false. Right, that's a devastating place actually to get to when you've been a teacher, because you go, now there's heaps of people who've listened to me and it was false. What do I do now? Right? So you get to that stage and you really feel it, you feel gutted, like that you even did it. And then you can pray to God. If you're sincerely repentant, you can pray for God. God can remove the cause of why you did it, which might be that I was arrogant, or it might be that I was taught that from childhood and I had a lot of emotions associated with that teaching and I didn't give them up, and things like that. It could be all sorts of things. God reaches in and takes away those causes, but I'm left with the fact that I still did it. Now, I no longer have any pain and suffering in myself that I still did it, but I realise there's all these things going on now, on earth in particular. There's all these things going on which are based upon what I did, what I taught. So an example of this is, you'll read this example in the Paget messages. The example is Luther, the man who founded the Lutheran religion on earth. You'll read some messages from him in the Paget messages. He taught what was false to others. Others now act and feel a certain way. One of the things they feel is that talking to spirits is talking to demons. Right? That's what they feel. That's what the Bible tells them, and he told them the Bible tells them, and so forth, and he taught them to focus more on the Bible and treating the Bible as fact and all these things. So he taught what was false. Now, Luther, once he arrived in the spirit world, we met, and he eventually come to the place where he repented for his behaviour. Lots of other things he had to repent for too, but this was his biggest because he'd affect other people with it, right? So even though he had sins with women, and some of them were quite bad, like on earth he said that the best way to keep a woman was to just keep her barefoot and pregnant. He actually said that to people on earth, right? So that was bad enough, but having taught people, lots of people, these things, has a life of its own. If he just believed that himself, well, that'd be one thing, wouldn't it? It only probably affected his life and the life of the women around him, but he taught it to lots of other people. You understand? So he entered a state of repentance, which meant that he was forgiven by God and he could feel the forgiveness. He entered the celestial heavens, right? Completely free of his own sin, but the effects of his sin still remained. There were people on earth, and still are to this day, people on earth, even though he lived hundreds of years ago, people to this day still feeling and acting upon his teachings. What do you think he feels about that?
Not good.
Well, no, he doesn't feel not good. He feels like, I've got to fix it.
Yeah.
One reason why he's happy we're here is because he's going, now I've got an extra opportunity to fix it. You know, so Luther spends a lot of time with us when we are talking to Lutherans. Yeah?
So does the love then just affirm the solidification of the action of that seeking of wanting to fix?
Yeah, because you realise that you've created a momentum, something that has a life of its own, that God can't rub out because it involves the free will of others, and the only thing you can do is attempt to influence their will in a different direction. But you have to do it in harmony with love. You can't do it any other way. Like he can't just materialise and do it because that wouldn't be harmonious with love, right? So there's other ways he can do it, but that's not a way.
Are you also asking about just in the repentance process, the love that you receive is the affirmation? Is that what you mean?
Kind of both.
Yeah.
Because of feeling like I've got a little, like a smidgen, but then every time an issue comes up and I know it's a sin, okay, got to release it, and feeling wanting to desire love at the same time to then solidify, don't make this action again, don't do this again.
Yeah, but that's automatic. If you're having to tell yourself not to do it again, that means it's not gone.
You need more education. And this is something we touched on in Canada. A lot of us see, oh gosh, I think I'm sinning there. Oh, better get rid of that. Rather than really going, how am I sinning? Why is it a sin? You know, this. How would I?
Going through
what would the loving action be? You know, we want to understand where did it come from? We want to understand all of those things about our sin. Why is it so harmful? But a lot of us panic. We see a sin. Oh, I just got to pray for love.
Just want to get rid of it. Just want to get rid of it.
Yes.
You know, that kind of feeling.
But
I've reflected, and I feel, in a sense, prayed for that. It needs to just be stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to get to the stage where you go, no, what I need first is education about it. I need to understand this sin. I need to understand it well enough to know even probably why I even did it to a degree, but also need to understand the effects of it in particular. In particular. So, sorry, Luther had to come to understand the effects of teaching somebody the wrong thing. And the long-term effects where if I teach Mary and she really believes it, she will start teaching her own children. And then they will teach their children, and they will teach their children, and they will teach their children. There's like multi-generational.
So Luther entered the spirit world and was like, oh, wow, here I am in the spirit world.
And not only that, I'm in the spirit world and I can't even go back to them now and tell them.
That's one of the biggest regrets he had, is I taught everyone not to listen to everyone here, and we can all see things, or a lot of us can see things a lot more clearly than they can, and now I can't I've trained all of them not to reject me as a demon. So I've actually cut off, that's so powerful, that demonstration of his sin. He was like, wow, I've even cut off the method of repairing this directly myself. So understanding what your sin is and why it's a sin, why it's harmful, how it's harmful, really wanting to know those things that's a part of that truthful education that you must sincerely long for in order to have God, and then long to have it removed from you in order for God to remove the cause from you. And then the love you receive in that process is educational even again in that process, because God's love, a lot of people think of God's love as just a lovely, nice experience, but actually it's very, very educational, God's love. It always comes with truth. It always comes with knowledge through experience of this love, and it enables you to become more sensitive to the next sin.
Can I maybe mention too how God feels about you doing this? Because that's very important.
Yeah.
You imagine you're a father and you've got children, and you notice your children harming each other. If your children decided to go, I need to learn how I'm harming my brother or sister, I need to work my way through why, whether I'm sorry about that myself without being told, and they did all that without you being involved, what would you think?
Pretty proud.
Yeah.
You'd be pretty proud, wouldn't you?
You'd feel pretty warm towards that person,
Yeah.
wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd be like, wow, you didn't even have to do that. I didn't even have to tell you. It's like when your kids are fighting and you are a mother or a father and you have to go out and say, cut it out, you guys, and sort it out. And this is wrong for this reason. If your children just went, hang on, we're hurting each other. This is wrong. Why are we doing that? How did that harm you? And sorted that out.
Yeah.
You'd feel pretty, wow.
Wouldn't you feel that's wow? That's a very unusual child who does that, right? So this is how God feels about his children who search for their sin and want to deal with it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Important to know that.
Okay, we were
we're
over
over
here.
here.
Someone.
where'd
Did
we
someone
go?
already? Yes, Ken.
Ken. Yep.
Jesus, Mary, I often ponder and wonder about the possibility of being able to take maybe a weekly nature walk with my guardian angel, spirit guides, maybe some of your friends at some point when it is in harmony, when that would be in harmony with God's laws of love, for something like that to happen. And it's more of in the spirit of like economy and function principles. I know you've mentioned, like in the spirit world, when someone expresses a sincere desire to learn or for a truthful education,
Yep.
an educator appears, like just-in-time learning.
Yep.
And I have
So
to wonder,
now you're talking about what physical things you might be able to do to
Right.
assist this process,
like
right?
a course correction weekly pep talk or something. Well, I don't know. I love that. I
Don't
love
wait till
that.
once a week, Ken.
No,
Ask them once an hour.
That's my
once a
first
minute.
comment.
Once a minute. No, but I'm
Why are you
like,
doing
I
this
wouldn't-
once a week?
I'm not trying to impose my will on the celestial angels or your friends, but it's just for some
But
reason
they wanna help
I
you.
have this longing. I have this wonder if it's possible while I'm still connected to this physical body here
Yeah,
on
just
Earth.
be careful, Ken, because
Yeah, tell me, please.
there's an emotion you have.
Okay.
The emotion you have is that I want my problems to go away. What? I want my problems to go away
Now?
now. Yeah? You want your problems to go away now, yeah? And so you want it fast. You understand?
At
Why do you
times.
want it fast?
I fasted today because I'm just not hungry.
Now, why do you want your problems to go away quickly, right now? Because
Oh.
most people don't want to feel their problems, right? You don't want to feel your problems.
I understand.
Now, if I exercise a desire, problems, to not feel my problems, what's my prayer? Can you see my prayer is, I want to avoid my problems.
Yes.
Now, your problems are all the result of sin.
Yes.
So really you're saying, I don't want to feel my sin.
Yes.
What I want is some help, some magical help come along. Like, can a spirit come along, please, and tell me my sins so I don't have to find them for myself?
That makes sense. Yeah.
That kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Got to be very careful of that, because that's not you having developed a sincere desire to learn. That's you wanting to have a quick fix, a quick learning without any effort on your part.
That's true.
Who's going to respond to that?
Nobody.
No, there will be people who respond to that.
Maybe the wrong people, yeah.
The people who tell you there's a quick fix and tell you that we can help fix it, you don't have to worry about anything. And who are these people? Most of the time they're people who want to get some level of control over your life.
Right.
Right? This is how addictions get met. You know? That's what happens. This is how politicians work.
Right.
Isn't it? Tell you that you don't have to deal with something, we'll look after it for you.
I just keep going back to that one lesson or one video you had where you explained there were countless, I think millions of celestial angels that really had a longing or passion to eventually at some point come back and be able to shake us. Like they can't do it now, it's just so murky and so many layers of mud here, so it's a little bit more difficult. And I know sometimes I can get I can go off on the wrong course because of
well, this is how you go off.
When you're mediumistic on Earth, it's very easy to kind of get influenced by sometimes by the wrong.
Well, all of you are mediumistic, by the way.
Yeah, everyone, yeah.
Everybody. So don't get confused with that.
Of course. Yeah.
Some more open than others, but everyone's mediumistic. But how you get influenced is by wanting to avoid your pain. See, when you want to avoid your pain, you're not sincere. A person who's in a state of sincere ignorance and starts seeing, I've got pain, they want to get to the stage where they learn how to feel their pain. That's what they do. They don't ask anybody necessarily to go, help me avoid my pain. If anything, they'll ask people, how do I get to feel my pain? Like, now, frequently when you're talking to spirit friends and so forth, and even frequently, many of you, when you go exercising, you're trying to avoid your pain. Right? Now, if I'm avoiding my pain, which is caused by my sin, am I sincere about my sin?
No.
No, I'm not. So there is going to be some pain in this process, and I'm not going to tell you otherwise. The Paget messages tell you there will be some pain in this process. Every person who's received God's love that came to Paget in the Paget messages said there was some pain before they got to the good feelings with God. And the reason why there was because they had to get to a place of sincere ignorance rather than just to sincerely want to avoid. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
So the feeling in you is one that you would like to avoid. Now, there's all sorts of feelings people want to avoid, even just doubt. A lot of people just want to avoid doubt. Doubt's a difficult emotion because when you doubt, you don't know what to do. And some people just want to be told what to do rather than doubt. Because when you doubt, you're in this state where you don't know what to do, and sometimes weeks can go past and you don't do anything because of it, right? You don't make a final decision or choice. That's doubt causing that, right? And a lot of us hate that. So we just want to go, yeah, I know what to do, let's go and do that, right? To avoid the feeling of doubt. Even just that one emotion can cause you to have attractions that are out of harmony with you developing your own desires, if you choose to not feel it. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of your questions now are based around what I want to share with you next. So maybe we need to have what I want to share with you next and then answer the rest of the questions. Does that make sense? Yeah?
So, and if we contrast that with what Jesus just said to you, with someone who has reached a state of sincere ignorance and has a sincere desire for truthful education, they're going to get a lot of feedback from spirit friends. They really are. And spirit's in a high condition. They really will.
And it won't be every week.
No, it'll be like,
It'll
you'll be like, oh, can't keep up.
every
Yeah.
minute. Every minute.
Yeah. But this problem affects most of us in the beginning.
Yeah.
I want a quick fix. I don't want to feel my problems.
So let's look at some of the problems that we all face in terms of becoming sincerely ignorant. In other words, this is where we're aiming to be at the beginning. What do I do? Where am I at now? And how do I get there when I'm at these other places, right?
So, and can we call this the step? Jesus, you said it earlier, which I quite liked. You said it's the sincere awareness that I'm not sincerely ignorant. We could get very convoluted, couldn't we?
Get very convoluted, yes. So we need to reach a place where we realise that we're insincere. And we sincerely realise we're insincere. Does that make sense? So we get to a place where we go, yeah, I'm just insincere on that one. Yeah, I'm insincere on that one. A lot of times it comes with that resignation feeling as well. Here I go again. That kind of feeling, like, there I go again, being insincere again, being in the same place again. It is quite frustrating. And to be honest with you, it is the most difficult part of God's way. Is the frustrating part of becoming sincere. That's one of the most difficult things in the whole path. When you've been taught to be insincere all of your lives, and then you've embraced insincerity as a way of life, it's very hard to overcome it. Very hard. And every single society on this planet has educated every single child on this planet to use insincerity as a way of getting things. Do you know what I mean by that? To use insincerity. It's like, just say, like when a child hurts another child, just say you're sorry. Just say you're sorry. Instead of, child, you can't say you're sorry until you mean you're sorry. They don't say that. They say, just say you're sorry and it'll be done. That's all you got to do. And so you learn with your mum and dad. Just say you're sorry when you do a purposeful thing even, you can just say you're sorry and they'll forget about it. What? If it was purposeful, I'm not forgetting about it ever until the person's repentant. You know what I mean? God doesn't either, by the way. Forget about it. Forgiveness is forgetfulness, and God forgets when you're repentant. Make sense? So you'll find the same in your own life as well. You'll forget when the person's repentant and you've forgiven them. That's when you'll forget what they do, right? Now, let's look at some of them, shall we? Let's start there and we'll work across.
Sure. Let's start with desired ignorance.
Sincere ignorance, and then there's desired. I'll write these in red because that was in blue, and blue good, red bad. So red. So we said desired ignorance. Now, this is a very interesting ignorance. This is a very interesting state because it's still, getting late today. You can see the word desire is in there. In other words, you have faith in ignorance.
Better not to know.
In other words, you have the idea, like Mary just said, it's better to not know.
What you can't know what you don't know can't hurt you. That kind of
thinking.
Philosophy.
What you don't know can't hurt you. So, an example of that on a relationship level is like, I don't want to know if Mary cheats on me, because if I know, then I might have to do something, and I don't want to have to do something. I'm happy with how it is, right? I don't want to know if Joe Blow down the road stealing from me. Like, let's say a worker is stealing from me. I don't really want to know, as long as it's a little bit and, I see someone stealing. I don't really want to know because I like the fact that he's working from me.
Yeah. This happens a lot of times as well when you have a conscience pain. You're like, oh, something's a bit off there. Something I did there, or something in that interaction was a bit off, but then you forget about it.
I don't want to know.
I don't want to know. I don't want to investigate that further.
I don't want to investigate the conscience pang. Just ignore it, that kind of thing. I don't want to know the effects of what I do. So in other words, when I wipe my bottom with toilet paper, I don't want to know what got the paper to my bottom? Besides my own hand, what else got there? What had
to go into it?
What had to happen in order for it to get to my house and in order for it to get into my country? What had to happen? I don't want to know. I just want to be able to use it. Right? I don't want to know where the coffee came from. I don't want to know. So these are physical things. I don't want to know, but also the bigger things. I don't want to know sexually how my behaviour and my feelings are affecting others. I don't want to know emotionally what's driving my actions. I don't want to know what belief drives my emotions. I don't want to know those things. I just want to ignore them and just live my life without too much complication. That's desired ignorance. And that's faith in ignorance. What that means is that you have faith that if you're ignorant, you'll be happy. Does that make sense?
Or at least less unhappy.
You'll be less unhappy, and you'll be more happy if you don't know. That's what the average person believes, right? That's a fundamental flaw in belief.
Well, it's actually a faith that is in complete disharmony with the whole
The reality.
construction of God's universe,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So desired ignorance, very, very dangerous to you. Very dangerous. And yet, one thing I recommend is look at all the areas of your life that you desire ignorance. You'll find a lot about yourself there.
Yeah.
Yeah? Now, can you see desired ignorance versus sincere ignorance? Sincere ignorance is just, I don't know. Desired ignorance is, I don't want to know. Can you see the difference?
Yes, one takes a lot of effort to stay in, and the other one is a very relaxed state.
Yeah, so when Mary says takes a lot of effort to stay there, the whole universe and all of God's laws and the laws of cause and effect and attraction are all helping you get out of ignorance. So to actually stay ignorant is going to take a lot of effort. You'll have to ignore a lot of things, a lot of pain. You'll have to, eventually you find yourself like living in like an altered reality. In order to ignore what's really going on.
Yeah, and we get grey hair and everything just from the exertion of not wanting to know things, it wears us out physically.
It wears you out physically, emotionally, spiritually. It causes you to not want to take actions in your life that you need to take in order to become happier. It's a disaster from an emotional perspective to have desired ignorance. Yeah? So that's one. What's next, babe?
You want desired arrogance?
Desired arrogance. Desired arrogance is basically saying, I already know. And I want to think that I already know. I feel me saying that I already know means that I'm good and I'm powerful and I'm worthy and I have respect and all that. I desire this arrogance. Right? That's very different, isn't it, to desire sincere ignorance. This is saying, I want to believe that I am right no matter what. And it doesn't matter, people can come along and share with you how wrong you are. Your own children can be crying, expressing to themselves their disappointment about your behaviour, and you will not listen. In that place, you just won't. Right? Things can be staring you in the face, openly staring you in the face, and you will not see them. It's also a place of desired blindness. I'm blind. I won't see things in that place. Arrogant people see the least. They also generally want more power than others. Over others, and as a result they're often in a very, very dark condition. Now you can see, can't you, that getting from there to there is going to be tough. Can you see that? If I desire to stay in the place where I believe I know everything, and this is the place I need to get in order to begin my relationship with God, can you see what the problem's going to be? It's a huge problem, isn't it? Like, I'm going to be so focused on staying here when actually the only place that's going to cause progress for me is being here in the sincere ignorance stage, right? So desired arrogance, extreme issue to deal with. And we often desire it in some areas and maybe not in others. So this is something too we need to work our way through. So frequently, for example, you'll find a religious person, where do they desire their arrogance? It's in their religious faith. Does that make sense? A person who engages in sexual immorality a lot, where do they desire their arrogance? In the sexual interactions they have. You follow?
The belief that there's no sin in
The
their
belief
action.
there's no sin in it, right? They desire to believe there is no sin in it. Just like the average person whose religion doesn't see the sin in their own religion. Right? So their own religion can say, go to war, and they go, no worries. Because they can't see the sin in their own religion. Their own religion can say, treat women, and this is every religion that believes in a God on earth, believes that women are less than men. Right? Their own religion is full of error. And yet the desired arrogance to hold on to the religion is causing them to remain in this state. And they are totally unwilling to see just that one thing is enough for them to leave their religion. Or to at least change their religion. Right? It's incredibly powerful avoidance, desired arrogance. Right? And this is something we feel particularly in Western societies. Every Western society has a huge amount of desired arrogance. This is why we believe we're in a better place than the people in Africa are. You understand? Because we believe our modern society is better. You guys are full on with it with tech. You know, we go into the washrooms here. I can't turn on a tap. Right? How crazy is that? Like, I've got to rely on a piece of tech to switch a switch which turns on the tap, and I've got to get it just right. I can't just talk to somebody, and I've got to really focus on like making it work. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Before,
and I get all turned around.
Right.
It doesn't work when I try, but then I'm not trying and it works. And
and then somebody's along and said, you're an idiot. Like, you just got to do it like this. And why? I just want to flick on the tap, wash my hands and get out of there, man. Right? But no, our desired arrogance is let's make tech make it better than the natural flow of the human body would be. Right? The natural flow of the human body is to switch on and off things. Right? Switch that on, do that, switch it off, do that, switch it off, that kind of thing. Not to go through 10 degrees of gradient to get something working. You know, remember the old fans? You know, you could just go, number 3, donk. Right? Now it's boom, 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 boom. Like there's 25 actions you've got to take to get it to number 3. You've got to go through this process of getting onto your, phone first and logging into that. And then once you're logged into that, you've got to get the app that controls your fan. So you get that. And once you've got the app that controls your fan, now you've got to get the part of the app. And of course, when it's Android and it's programmed badly, or Apple programmed badly, you're like flicking through the menus trying to find, there it is, and then you go that. This is all just to turn on a fan. What the hell have we done? Something that was done in a second or less before now takes me a minute. Like, I get in my car, I can't turn on the key anymore. I've got to go through a process, put my seatbelt on first, then turn on the key. I can't do both processes as is natural to my body, doing them at the same time. The body can handle multiple things at the same time in a very, very soul synchronized way. I get in the car, I slip in the car, I can put on my seatbelt, turn on the thing at the same time. I've got 2 different hands, right? But the tech hasn't, right? So he says it wants one before the other. And I'm going, why in the hell won't this car turn on? I've got to put my seatbelt on, push in the clutch, because I'm stupid and I remembered that I've got to, I could have already sorted all that out, right? I know what I'm going to do at least. But no, the car says, no, you've got to do it this way, and now it's taken me, the cars are designed for serial killers. Do you know what I mean by that? It's sort of like...
You've got to explain my comment,
This is just a joke Mary and I have between ourselves. It's like the car is designed so that if you're trying to get away from a serial killer, you can't.
I said to Jesus, it's an untapped market. Basically, these cars are designed so... I find it funny because there's so much emphasis of safety in the United States, but if you need to make a fast getaway, you cannot do it.
You just can't.
You've got to press the button, get it open, and then, you know, someone very generously loaned us their car, but it was a van, and you can't just pull it shut. You've got to pull the thing, and it gradually does the thing, and then, you know, you can't just like, the hurricane is coming, quick, let's go. No, wait.
Or in your guys' case, maybe a tornado or something,
Yeah.
right? I've got to get away fast. No, we're waiting 20 seconds first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And then for the clutch, they do the thing, and then seatbelts, yeah.
But this is how arrogant we've become. We think by adding tech to it, we're going to make it better. And we're not. We haven't made it better. Your lives aren't better from the tech. They're slower. Like, I don't know if you've noticed, but, you know, years ago when you got software, it was usually 1 or 2 actions to get something done. Now it's 25 different actions to get the same thing done, frequently. And they keep, they keep saying, I'm improving the UI. And no, you're not. You're destroying the UI that was so functional before, but now it's pretty useless. And this is the problem, is we become so arrogant that we start believing our own arrogance is good. And in the process of believing it's good, we take further actions, making it worse, making our lives worse. And we've done this in so many areas now in modern society. You know, if you look at the care of the individual, it's gone nuts in the sense that the whole idea is the individual can't care for themselves. So we need to create some kind of mummy state that says you can't care for yourself. Like, you can't look after your own water and collect your own water. You know, even though it's falling right on your roof, you can't look after your own water and collect your own water. What you've got to do instead is it isn't in many of your states illegal to collect your own water. What a stupid thing that is, right? It's sort of like the water that falls from the heavens you're not allowed to collect. Like, there's something wrong there, right? Given the fact that it's probably the most pure water you got, right? Although less so now, unfortunately, because of all the pollution. But it's incredible how far we'll go in a modern society in our arrogance, and we desire it. Nobody's screaming and going, look at what, like, there are some people now, you know, minority, going, oh, these cars are now starting to cause accidents with all this tech. Right, I don't know if you've noticed that you're driving along and they pull on your, like, and it's very distracting. It causes you to be distracted by the car, and in the process of distracting by the car, you're now not looking at the road. You're distracted by the tech in the car. You want to turn on the air conditioner. Before, it used to be a button and a dial. Now, which is 2 fluid actions, right? Now, no, you've got to go through the menu system on the panel, getting the switch, and then once you go through now, who's watching the road while you're doing all this, if you're in there by yourself, right? None of it makes any sense. But in our arrogance, we keep doing it. Can you see that? It's our desired arrogance. What does arrogance give us? It gives us a sense we know. It gives us a sense we're worth something. It gives us a sense of respect. Other people should respect us. Like, we're demanding other people acknowledge us in some way in our arrogance. Very, very dangerous for our future with God, because God's designed all things right from your body right the way through to your emotions and your beliefs and your sexual behaviour and everything. God's designed it to all work. And what we've done in our arrogance is make a lot of it not work. So when it comes to our body, it starts not working, we go to a doctor and he gives us more things to help it not work more. That's generally like, let's give you some more desired arrogance by making a pill that the arrogant people who made it didn't consider its results. Give you a pill, that pill will solve this problem, but it causes 20 others. Right? Isn't that what happened during our recent epidemic? Right? documented, by the way, by many, many nations now, that the pill or the inoculation, given by, forced upon many of you, right, or attempted to force upon by governments, actually had its terrible, terrible effects. And many times more, like 100 times more effects than the normal way that these things would have normally worked in the past. 100 times worse effects. It's incredible if you look at the statistics, if you educate yourself. And yet, the desired arrogance is, a lot of governments, including your own, can't even admit there was a fault. Right? Isn't that true? Yep. Because we desire arrogance, we don't even want to see when we make a mistake. That's a sad thing, isn't it? Because you can learn from mistakes, but when you don't want to see you've made one, how can you learn from it? It's impossible. Right? So this is the problem with this feeling. What's my time?
Yep.
Yep, I've got time.
You got.
Okay, what's next?
Desired judgment.
Notice that all of these are being prefixed. And the reason why I'm prefixing them all with desire, the word desire, is because you need to understand that desire is your faith. You have faith in judgment, you have faith in arrogance, you have faith in ignorance. In other words, you believe it works. It's going to bring you benefits. It's going to bring you happiness, is what we believe. Right? Now, there's two types of judgment we generally have. It's judgment of self or others. Okay. So, can you see how judgment of self can be a huge addiction on your part to not become sincerely ignorant? It's sort of like saying, I've got my problems, how terrible am I? I'm really, really bad. I've got sins and I'm a really, really bad person. Now, the more you teach yourself that you're useless, which God does not believe, by the way, God believes you are the pinnacle of his creation, so you're not useless, but the more you teach yourself can you see, the more you teach yourself you are useless, the more useless you become. You understand? The more you teach yourself you're bad, usually the worse you become. You become less motivated to fix it. That's a normal thing, unfortunately, that happens when we judge ourselves. You're putting a noose around your own neck, fundamentally. And in the first century, I used to say the judgment of others was putting a noose around both your neck and throwing the millstone that's connected to the noose into the sea. You know, you're going to drown from it. And the trouble with judgment is you do drown from it. You get to the stage emotionally where you're unable to fix anything in your own life, and you're unable to help anybody else around you fix anything in theirs, because you're too busy judging them and feeling superior to them than helping them do anything. You follow? So it's a terrible, terrible state to enter, and it's a very dangerous state, but many of us are in it. Right? We notice this so much. It's like at home, you know, still big problems with it. And even with the people we've been teaching for years and years and years who've heard all of the teachings we've done, because I've been there, and they still have huge amounts of judgment, say, of somebody else, when they see somebody else feeling an emotion that they feel should be easy to feel or easy to get over. That kind of thing. You see it everywhere. And for you, it might be easy, but for somebody else, they might have a different upbringing, a different circumstance, situation, and it might be very difficult for them. So something that I might find easy to deal with, like no longer using toilet paper, might be something that's quite hard for you. Like if you've been brought up and punished for like doing things like, you know, getting dirty outside in the garden, or, you know, touching poo, or, you know, whatever in your childhood, you might have some big emotional issues about it that you might have to address. Make sense? So don't judge it, and don't judge it in others, but still work through it. Yeah? But desired judgment is driven by the desire to feel superior. That makes sense?
Maybe just check the temperature. I see everyone's getting 86 still.
It's still 86, but a bit more humid, I would suggest.
Yes.
Yeah, that's all.
How are you guys going? You okay? I notice a few people wilting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Do you want to talk about this one?
Now, can you see? I can start listing with the word desired in front. We could start listing lots of things, couldn't we? Let's look at some really common ones. Desired fear. What do we mean by that, do you think?
Up the back.
Up to back there? Yep, standing up.
Just right behind you. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. You're hiding out by the fan.
Yeah. Now you'll have to get away from that fan to speak, because otherwise it would be in my recording.
How's this?
Yep.
Okay, this is what I'm dealing with right now, so this is good. Desired fear is you justify that fear. Like that fear, you gotta honor that fear because it's true.
It's reasonable.
It's reasonable. You think that fear is, if you don't honor that fear, something really bad is gonna happen.
That's right.
That's what it is.
That's right. Yep. Yep. And can you see how easily able that is to be manipulated? Like if I am a politician and I know you have a fear that you want to keep, it's quite easy for me to manipulate that, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I can promise you things and you'll believe me, even if I have no intention of ever satisfying what I said. Mm-hmm. You'll believe me because your fear is desired. Yeah.
Or I can threaten you with things, can't I? I can say, well, unless we do this thing's going to happen.
So,
and I know you're so afraid of that other thing happening that you'll
so what
accept
happened during the
anything I do.
pandemic?
Yeah.
What did you get threatened with? Well, firstly, with your own death. Isn't that the case? Right? What else? Your job. If you're particularly in healthcare or some other job that was essential, you were threatened with your job. Your health.
The death of others.
The death of others. Right, so you're threatened with family issues. You were also threatened by people saying to you things like, if you don't get a vaccination, then you're actually unloving to other people. So you were threatened with shame and also with the false definition of love, even. Mm-hmm. You were threatened with that. Ostracism, ridicule, prevention from freedom. You were threatened with all of those things. Many of you desired to accept that as a paradigm, right? And the result of doing that was fundamentally, for many years, couple of years, probably here, was it? Couple of years where you were restricted in your life. And your welfare was restricted, your life was restricted. We're perfectly happy to live in fear for years. Mm. And you know what happened is that governments learnt worldwide one thing. People will not rebel if we scare them and then say we have the solution to their fear. You understand? It was a way of getting you manipulated, fundamentally. Now, that's you, it's not their fault. That's you desiring fear. You understand? Mm-hmm. And all that, you desire to hold on to it. You believe it. You want to believe it. and in the process want to accept that it's real, want to accept that the false, which is really what the fear is based on, is a real thing, right? If we look at that one event, that 2-year event, 1919 to 1920...
2019, you're
sorry,
like me.
2019.
I always lose a century.
2019, sorry, wrong century. 2019 to 2021 or whatever it was. How much of our freedoms were erased, really, and permanently erased, by the way. How much the world's economy became based around those who have money. How much how much things increased in their so-called value. You're bearing the consequences of it right now. A lot of the things now cost twice as much as they used to, yeah, as a result of this particular behaviour. All because it all could be done because you're afraid. Many of you engaged organisations which are already more powerful than governments, like Amazon, Google, Facebook, all these, because you wanted the social interaction, and they made huge amounts of money out of your restriction. Mm-hmm. Huge amounts of money, huge profits out of your restriction, out of your free will being eroded, right? Mm-hmm. And as a society, we accepted a lot of it because of our fear.
Our desire for fear.
Our desire to stay in it.
Yeah, it's not fear, the emotion that can be released, the false belief that can be released. It's the desire to honour the false belief.
To believe it's true.
Yeah.
To believe it's real. To believe that it actually matters.
To not be sincerely ignorant. Does this matter or not?
Yeah, a person who's sincerely ignorant would have gone, I need to investigate whether what I'm being told is actually true. I need to investigate whether these matters that are being shared with me actually have any validity, any valid reason to respond to, right? I need to understand that for myself. I need to educate myself about that. I'm being offered vaccination. I need to examine whether such things that I'm being offered have been properly developed. And who is benefiting if they are not properly developed? I need to analyse all of that. I need to get information of all of these things. And by the way, at the beginning, information was hard to come by. You would have had to search for it in order to find it, because it wasn't easily to come by initially.
And may I put to you that there was a lot of information based on the opposite fears as well.
That's right.
That were posited as truth. So don't trust the government. Trust my other
they're injecting you with a tracking device or a microchip or all these other things that are not true either, right? But which create fear in another group of people. You follow me? Right?
Play on the desire.
Play on the desires of people one way or the other. Because at the end, you fundamentally are going to respond to fear whether the fear is on one direction or another one. It doesn't really matter as long as we keep you afraid. You understand? As long as we make an argument of the whole thing and we create... So what fundamentally happened was that two groups of people became established, each fighting the other, when what they should have been doing was learning the truth about it together. If there was a cooperative effort to learn the truth together, they wouldn't have fought each other, and they would have instead used all that energy, time and energy and resources to find out the truth of what was going on. But no, they used so much resources fighting each other and bickering with each other and even getting quite verbally violent and sometimes physically violent with each other, that the actual problem, which was the desire to stay in fear, just got completely overlooked.
Well, and if we look at what you've written on the board there, Jesus, the desire to stay in fear led to desired judgment, desired arrogance, And here we are, we're still ignorant of the true causes because everyone wants to remain arrogant about what they saw as the issue and judge the people who didn't share that viewpoint.
Yeah.
So it's
sad, really, isn't it? How far we will go collectively just because of fear being the motivator. Yeah? And this has happened a number of times now in history, hasn't it? Like the 9/11 events are similar. They create fear. When fear is created, the next step that most people take is acting unlovingly. Let's go to war now. That's the next step of, fear creates war, creates suffering, creates... None of that is the same as sincere ignorance. Because a sincerely ignorant person would have looked at that situation and gone, I need to know more. Before I start putting something in my body, I need to know more. Right? And we notice that most people don't even look at the labels on their food and see what they're putting in their body. In fact, one thing that we found quite surprising here in the USA is that you can have water and it doesn't have a description of all the different contents of the molecules in the water. Right? In fact, some of them just say water plus solids. What? Right? Others just say water. Nothing else. They don't tell you what's in it. There's no idea. Most of you are drinking bad water and you have no idea you are because nobody's telling you are and you haven't wanted to find out. Do you follow? And when you drink bad water, you don't want to drink it. So what do you want to drink instead? Yeah, something with sugar in it or something with flavour in it or something with tea or coffee in it or some
carbonated.
Some carbonated thing or whatever. You won't want to drink what God made you the more it's tainted with other products, right? Because your body just feels like you don't want it. And so can you see the underlying motivation of bigger companies doing this to you? Like most people are not aware. It's about making money off of you getting other products. Do you also notice that water now costs more than those other products? Like going to an airport, like LA airport, for example, there's only one type of bottled water that we could find in the entire airport. It was all tainted with up to 400 parts per million of bicarbs, right, which shouldn't be in the water at all. And everybody there was drinking it, and it cost more than buying Coke or Fanta or these well-known Pepsi or other well-known brand names of drink. Why? It makes no sense. Right? Well, it does make sense if you want to prevent people from drinking water. Why would I want to prevent you from drinking water? Because if you buy something else, you'll be less connected with your soul. Right? And a person who wants to manipulate you wants you to be less connected with your soul. Right? So that's why they do it. But of course they're not couching it in that way. They're doing it for money, mostly. They do it to get you back on the product that they want you on, right? Make it harder for you to do the healthy thing. Have you noticed that? Food which is the least processed costs the most. How did that happen? The ones that are most processed, you have to go through processes, like there's a lot of processes that are occurring. There's water being used, there's other things being used, packaging, all sorts of things being used to make those goods. Surely they should cost more, but they don't, they cost less. How did that happen? Right? It's all because of these problems relating to desired fear. Society wants you to remain disconnected from your true feelings. And these foods, these packaged foods, help you become disconnected from your true feelings. While you're disconnected from your true feelings, you will act badly. You will act out of harmony with love. And society generally wants you to act out of harmony with love because that's the way it has the most control over you. Right? And most people don't realise the significance of all of this. Spiritually, there's a huge significance to it. Desired fear, one of the worst problems on the planet. It causes all of our wars. Right? It's one of the worst problems we face. And yet most of us want it. And particularly what we want to, when I say desired fear, we desire to keep our fear inside of us but not feel it. That's what we desire. We want to not feel it, but we want to keep it there. Because we justify it being there. We're saying to ourselves, if it's there, it keeps me safe. And we don't realise how much pain we have about being safe. We have a lot of pain about it. Make sense? And that's not a place of desire, of sincere ignorance on a matter. When you're in your fear, you cannot be convinced. You can't be convinced that something is wrong. It just can't. It's impossible to convince a person in fear. Right? And they will fight for their fear. They'll even go to war for their fear. They will abuse their children for their fear. We have over 200 million children dying every year, whether it's from malnutrition, from abortion or from miscarriage, and nobody does a single thing about it. But you introduce COVID and 1 million people die every year from it, and now we're doing something. Does that make any sense to you? 200 million children are still dying every year right now, right? And yet we're so worried about COVID, talking about how bad it... Why aren't we talking about how bad we treat our children? Right? It's because of our fear. All you got to do is threaten someone with their life, and the average person's so afraid of dying that you can pretty much get away with anything with them. Yeah? That's fear. And we like it. We live in it and we stay there. All right. Have we got the energy for one more?
There's a hand up at the back, but...
Want to ask a question?
Is it Stephen?
Maybe if we go...
I see a hand with nobody, but I think it's Stephen.
Is it out the back there? And then across this way, yeah.
Why do you think it is that fear is so powerful? Why do we desire it so much?
Fear.
Fear, because feeling fear as an emotion is one of the most difficult emotions to feel. So the average person, when they have to go through terror, which is an emotion that's one of the most difficult emotions to actually feel, the average person wants to avoid it at any cost. Even the cost of their own life. They'd rather die than feel it, the average person. They'd rather go to war than feel it. They'd rather kill somebody else than feel it. So the feeling of terror is a feeling you're going to have to learn how to feel without taking action on it.
So is it the desire to avoid the fear or the desire to feel the fear?
Well, it's the desire to stay in fear but avoid the feeling of it.
The sensation of it.
It's the sensation of it. So if we think about our body's senses, there are certain senses that we enjoy and there's certain senses we don't. But our body was created with all of them anyway. The senses we enjoy are...
Sex.
What was that one?
Sex.
Yeah, I have to say so, yeah. Sex, what else? Touch, if it's kind, don't we? Kind touch, so let's say... Yeah. Taste. In other words, we'll eat anything if it tastes good, right? Pretty much. Doesn't matter how bad it is for us either. Yeah, what else? Smell. Yeah, you'll smell things that smell pretty even though they're very bad.
My gosh, we go through the airport duty free and there's so many
the duty free
smells.
section, which
there's
is
a
all
whole
the
industry in smell, isn't there?
Yeah, the perfumes and the whatever.
Yeah.
And you'll go through there and you can barely breathe. And also, by the way, all of those chemicals are going straight into your lungs and straight into your bloodstream because, it's really bad for you actually. And yet, because they smell pleasant, we put up with it. Right? Not good. What else? Sorry? Sight.
We like looking at
We like looking at things, particularly if they look good. Right? What else? Well, you say love, but most people don't like love, so I'll put that over there because most of you have no idea what love is. Sorry? Addictions, yeah. So, and it doesn't really matter what addiction does it. Because if you look at many addiction, if you look at many of our addictions, they're all to do with feeling good about yourself, aren't they? Like, why did Facebook become such a big company? Can you see? It's just because it fed your addictions. Mm-hmm. Like, fed your addiction to be noticed, fed your addiction to be everyone agree with you, fed your addiction to be liked. As long as I've got 500 likes, must be a good person. There's 500 people who come to my funeral. Right? That's, one guy who was interviewing me once said, I've got 500,000 likes on...
Followers on Twitter.
Oh, followers on Twitter.
You didn't even have a Twitter account.
I don't even have a Twitter account.
So he was more worthy, was his point.
He was more worthy than me.
Yeah.
Because he had all these people who agreed with him. Yeah? So we're addicted to these things, right? So the addictions, which are all based upon our fears for the most part, by the way, they're all based on what we're afraid of happening. And so we enter these addictions. But even things like taste, which is sensory, smell, sensory, touch, sensory, sex, sensory, but also emotion, right? Sight, sensory. If we look at all of these things, we become so focused on all of them, we go, I like to see what I see. So an example of that is if I'm buying a new house, or a block of land, I don't buy the most run-down block of land, do I? The average person doesn't. They look at the run-down block of land and they go, why would I buy that for? It makes sense to buy it the most, probably, right? But the average person doesn't. They go, lovely block of land. Beautiful, lovely view, everything's lovely, my sight is excited by it, my smell is excited by it, this is the one to get. And yet, there's all these other ones we could fix. We could actually express love to them and fix them. But no, what we're going to do is grab the one that looked good to us and destroy it a bit. That's what we're going to do instead. We're going to go, that's a lovely block of land, now I clear a bit of it and put a house on it. Right? Instead of going, that's a lovely block of land, I'm going to leave that and get this ugly block of land next door and do that and fix that. Putting a house on that, not so bad because it's already bad. But we don't make these decisions, you see. We're not thinking in love because our fear is going, but I want it to look good. I need it to look good. If it looks bad, people will criticise it. If it looks bad, there's all sorts of things. It's going to be a lot of work. I'm afraid of work. I'm afraid of having to do a job. How much are you going to spend on that bad thing? It's going to be hard. There's going to be economic problems and pressures on me if I do that thing. There's all these fears now making my decision for me. And not love. Love would say, there's a bad one, let's fix that. Right, but fear drives my decisions. So the avoidance of the fear drives my decisions. So I'm living in my fear. I'm desiring to keep my fear, motivating the decision. Make sense?
Part of the question was why do we avoid fear so much as opposed to other...
Because we think it's going to satisfy.
We think it's going to satisfy that. And fear is very much based on belief. It's false beliefs. It's things that, govern our desired reality. So a lot of times when we are confronting a fear, we're confronting a belief about the future, about reality. And a lot of us, when we get to grief, we've already faced some reality. There's a loss we're feeling. Yeah. But when we're dealing with fear, it's, this is something governing my reality. And a lot of us are very, very resistive. I would say 99.99% of the world's population is very resistive to having sincere ignorance in that regard, in regard to our fear. Yeah. Is my belief incorrect?
Yeah.
We want to say, no, my fear holds all of the correct beliefs.
Yeah. So we fundamentally have faith that our fear is good, that our fear protects us, that our fear makes us safer. You have one of the most unsafe societies on this earth.
You say you know, but I don't know if many people know.
Right? You have one of the most unsafe societies on this earth, And that's because the US culture is in one of the most strongest fears on this earth.
There's a collective agreement to retain fear as reality.
That's right.
Yeah.
Make sense? And that's why it's so unsafe, ironically.
Yeah.
The fear is driving the lack of safety. Yeah. Yeah. But you have faith in it. It's like you're still convinced, it's still telling yourself, fear is good, fear is good, fear is good, be more afraid, be more afraid. You know, if our government makes us afraid, get rid of that government, make a new one. If our society has more fear, well, let's do more bolts, more security, more. Like, we've never met as many bolts and security as we have in the USA. You know what I mean? Like, with everything, it seems. Security here, security there. Like, everyone's so worried about it losing what they have. Fear of losing what you have. Right? And you know what's going to happen? When you pass, you're going to lose everything you have. So it's a good fear to get rid of that one, because you're going to have that at some point, whether it happens now or it's forced upon you when you pass. Yeah. Now, can you see, rather than sort of exhausting this, can you see that we could almost list, there's a lot of other things we could list, right? Fear. So Mary's going to mention some of them. We're just going to mention them because it's up to you to investigate them.
Okay, desired anger and rage. And every flavour of those emotions, probably.
Yeah.
Desired approval and acceptance.
These are all preventing sincere ignorance, right?
Desire for, we touched on these this morning, worth and accolades. Desire for power. Desire for honour, respect, acknowledgement. And desired avoidance, which really is somehow related. It's a cousin of desired ignorance, isn't it?
Yeah. You could also add denial, desired denial, and so forth, right? Now, can you see, it's when we desire these things, not when we have them, but when we desire them, that is our problem.
Because desire is such a strong force. It's like a pull. It's
Yep.
a pull. If you've ever really desired something, it pulls you into action.
Yeah.
It pulls
you want to buy
in
a
that
house?
direction.
You're going to buy a house eventually.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah.
You'll make it happen.
Yeah.
You want to buy a new car? You're going to get a new car eventually. You'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you think of kids, if they desire the cake on the table, what are they doing to it? They're looking at it, they're dreaming about it, they're going towards it, going up.
Pressurising everyone.
You know, yeah. They really want it. It's the object of their love and affection, and you know.
You could say the object of their lust.
Their
in a way,
lust,
right?
their lust, not
Yeah,
their
yeah.
love. Their attention, their
Yeah.
focus.
They
their
feel
will.
they need it.
Yeah.
And when you feel you need something, that drives your behaviour, right? So the problem with all of these things is not that you have them, because everyone has sin. It's not that you have them, it's that when you desire them, you are never going to get to this state of sincere ignorance on a matter, because you're going to desire something else instead. That's going to be your main passion. Instead of desiring to see that you don't know, you're going to be desiring worth or rage or approval or acceptance or whatever. That's going to be your God. God's not going to be your God. Something else will be. Right? And generally all of these things you can see are emotions and beliefs. Can you see that? This is why emotions and beliefs are so powerful, because we're desiring them so much, these things so much, that it prevents us from getting to the stage of sincere ignorance on every issue so that we can learn something about it. Like, most people who are in a state of desiring power never learn why they want it so much. They never see their own behaviour, their own sinful behaviour of what they're doing in order to get it.
So, and so Jesus, you're saying if we took the issue of power, if we said,
Yeah.
I desire power, and we became sincerely ignorant about that, then we would say, I have a sincere ignorance about
Why I want
power.
power.
What power?
What do I need to learn?
Yeah. Now I can learn about it.
I need to desire to know about my power. Not ignore it, not feed it, but know about it, to understand it. What drives my power?
What's the effect of me wanting power?
Yeah, what does it harm? How does it harm others? I need to know.
Why have I had faith in power?
And then I get to the stage where now I'm desiring, I want to know. Now you're in a state where you want to know the truth. Now you have some hope of even God listening to you. Because God wants to share truth. Now, God shares truth not by giving you love, but by giving you truth through the operation of your conscience. Right? So you, in this state, become more sensitive in your conscience. Your conscience will start bothering you. You go, oh, there I did it again. Oh, I could see, I just wanted that, there. And your conscience will bother you to the point where you develop a desire to go, I need to stop this somehow. I need to find the desire to stop getting what I want. So you start wanting to curtail your own lust for it. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to you? You want to curtail your own lust for it because you want to restrict yourself from doing it because you can see how bad it is and what it does, right? And then, of course, once you're in that state, now when you pray about the release of your power issues, God can help you with them because now you're being more sincere, right? So if you look at another issue, let's say the desire for approval, right? When you begin, you're in a state where you just want it. You want the approval. It doesn't matter how you get it. You can lie to get it. You can avoid the truth with other people to get it. You'll do things to get it that are really bad for the environment to get it.
You give up your own will to get it.
You'll give up your own will to get it. There's all sorts of things you'll do. When somebody comes along and gives you some approval, but they're really evil, you'll go with them and do whatever it is they want because you're bad. They want the approval. This is what happens when you're in a state like that, when you want approval. Getting to a state of sincere ignorance is going to be troublesome there too, because you're going to have to give up all of the things you want approval for. And for an average person, particularly in a Western society, that's a lot.
Yeah.
Right? Then you want approval for being a good mum, a good dad, for being a good wife, for being a good husband, for being good at your job, for being for earning the money you earn. You want more money so that you got extra approval from people. You want, there's so many things that you could list really, just in the search for it. And then when you realise, I need to have a sincere desire to see what damage this causes to me and others, because it does damage others. In fact, anybody you seek approval from has power over you. Mm-hmm. So you're damaging them by giving them more power. So they're already power hungry and you're giving them more. You're damaging them by giving them more. You're creating a bigger monster than they already are, right? And then on your end, you're going to do a whole heap of things in your sin to get that approval. So there's all the sins you commit getting the approval. So you might go to bed with them and you might, you agree to steal for them. You might, go to war for them. In order to get the approval. And there's all these sins you commit just to get approval from a government or from your wife or your husband or family or whatever. And once you learn about how much approval, the desire for it, is driving the sin in your life, you go, wow, I'm shocked. Like how bad this situation is. Yeah. Now you'll find you're getting a truthful education about the damage it does.
Yes.
Make sense?
And you need to expect that when you are starting this process of sincere ignorance. The things you see as the problem of the sin at the beginning is really just the beginning. There's a lot, for every sin, there's a huge impact. And a lot of us aren't willing to really get the proper education about the full impact of our sin. And yet that's what God requires of us, to forgive us.
Mm. So until I get to the state where I really desire sincere action to pray about the problems, and I have to first know the problem to pray about it, then obviously there's nothing God can do to really help us to get rid of these problems. We can't receive love while we want to continue the action. While we desire these things, we're not desiring these things. So while we desire the error, we're not desiring the truth. Right? While we're in a state where we can't desire the truth, we can't have a sincere longing to receive God's love, because it's just to avoid things that we're seeking it. We're not dealing with our own sin ourselves. Yeah?
It's like we need to put arrows this way, don't we? We're going further and further away from this process, aren't we, for all of these desires that we hold on to?
Yeah. So hopefully you've seen in the discussion this afternoon how some of the techniques you're using to avoid this state.
And may I suggest some homework would be to consider, where do I desire ignorance? Where do I desire arrogance? Where do I desire judgment? And so on. Where are these desires already in my life? Because wherever they are means that I'm preventing this sincere ignorance on whatever those issues are.
And how do they affect my sincerity with God? How do those things that I want affect my true sincerity with God? Because we're hopeful over the next 2 days of helping you become more sincere with God, because it's only by receiving God's love that real change is going to happen in your life. But for that change to occur, you're going to have to get more sincere with God yourself. God's not going to make you magically more sincere. That's never going to happen. There's no law that says, abracadabra, you are now sincere. There's no fast change. In one of the Paget messages, there was a man that came to Paget and said, as far as I know, Jesus has always taught us that change is going to be slow. There's no such thing as instant change. If anybody convinces you there is, they are wrong. The reason why there's no such thing is because you've got to undo these things to get to the point where forgiveness can occur. So in the process of undoing these things, there is not going to be any instant change. The only real instant change can occur here. Once you've come to see and acknowledge your sin, now some change is possible, but you're not going to come to see your sin instantly. It's going to be a dedication and hard work on your part. And I'm encouraging you to do it because of the results. Not just for you, but for the whole world. The results are fantastic. Yeah? So I'd like to leave our discussion there today. Is that all right with you? Tomorrow we would like to talk to some spirits who have had to go through this process, and you will have the opportunity, hopefully, to ask them what they did. Does that sound all right with you? Because for many of them, they've already done it, and many of them wished they had done it on earth. So we need to see what they believe would have happened if they had dealt with some of it on earth, versus the fact that many of them dealt with it only after they left the earth, right? And what happened to them then, and how difficult that was. It's very important that you understand that, so they understand the relationship between holding on to something here, hoping and waiting for the spirit world to come so you deal with it there. Right? You're here for education, yes? Right? So let's get educated about what really happens to a person who avoids dealing with their stuff on earth. Yeah. All right, we'll leave that with you today.
Thanks for your participation, everyone. Can I just mention before you go, someone reminded me there is a beautiful donation box that has been donated to us. If you want to admire it on the way out, it's got lovely artwork that Debbie did for us. But if you do want to make a donation, the box is at the back.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And you've done well dealing with the warmth, guys.
Yes, congratulations. You did good.
Hardly any complaint either. Amazing.
Do you want this off?
Not that.
Just this bit.
Yeah.
Yeah?